Uh, Good evening, class and professor. I'm going to talk about Alexander Hamilton and the U.S. Mint. Now, Western civilization has been built on the backs and minds of great men. One who was often overlooked until recently was Alexander Hamilton. He had a scandalous personal life and died all too soon before he could achieve his goals and aspirations. Now, this is a quote. He was born out of wedlock on a small island in the West Indies and orphaned as a teenager. From those inauspicious circumstances, he rose to a position of power and influence in colonial America. Now, that's from Martha Brockenbrough, Alexander Hamilton's Revolutionary, great book. Alexander Hamilton was a smart, handsome individual with a magnetic personality. Early on in his time in America, he quickly found himself associated with the Liberty Boys, which propelled him into the upper class world and into the American Revolution. Now, early in the beginning of the American Revolution, Alexander Hamilton showed his mental aptitude for writing powerful and elegant statements. One of his first pamphlets came to the fore refuting a pro British tax pamphlet, which was titled A Full Vindication of the Measures of Congress. Hamilton's response was simply titled The Farmer Refuted. Now, Hamilton was addressing Bishop Samuel Seabury, in which he insults Seabury's ability to write and responds to Seabury's main point that the colonies can fight against the acts of Parliament while still being loyal to the king. Now, his response was so well received and so amazingly written, most colonials believe that he didn't write it because he is far too young to be that wise. Now, this creative and intelligent mind would push through the Revolutionary War, and Hamilton would find himself as the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America. There is a reason why Alexander Hamilton is on the $10 bill. He knew what America would need to succeed. He shaped the financial, political, and legal systems of the United States. His economic policies were decades ahead of the United States' needs. As Hamilton was selected and confirmed as the first Treasury Secretary of the United States, he begins building the blocks of our economic foundation. The provision for the support of public credit was one of the four major reports on the fiscal and economic policies submitted by Alexander Hamilton. This report highlights portions of Alexander Hamilton's genius and how our nation's economic structure was built. Hamilton analyzed the financial stability of the United States and presented Congress with his recommendations how to reorganize the nation's debt and how to establish a public credit. This report was a major statement for the federal government because it would have the federal government assume on state debts. The Hamilton musical, if anyone has seen it, highlights this event in detail. It goes, if New York's in debt, why should Virginia bear it? Our debts are paid, I'm afraid. Don't tax the South because we got it made in the shade. Right? So this bill would completely change the landscape of our nation's federal funding and the placement of the capital of the United States. Now, Alexander Hamilton is considered one of the greatest nationalists in our nation's history. A goal of Alexander Hamilton was to create a strong and sound central government capable of supporting a growing nation made up of individual states. One of the strongest foundations Alexander Hamilton supported was national and state banks. Now, in order to provide loans to personal businesses, individuals, and governments accounts while also supporting a national currency, the United States needed an institution that can handle the significance of that responsibility. Though Hamilton strongly advocated for a strong central government, his Federalist contemporaries wanted the Bank of the United States to play a much larger role than what Hamilton originally suggested. Now, Hamilton even stated in a letter to George Washington on March 27, 1791, he stated, "It can never be the interest of the National Bank to quarrel with local institutions," end quote. Hamilton was not looking to secure the nation, Hamilton was looking to secure the nation and make it stronger, not weaker. He didn't want the federal government not to be able to be supported if the state banks went up and under or they had some wonky things going on because there was a lot of abuses of state banks back in the day, and the reason why the United States is the mecca of the world economic system is thanks to Alexander Hamilton. That's all. Thank you, class.